As a society, we must have a conversation right now about the fact that the CBI has finally filed its closure report in the two cases linked to Sushant Singh Rajput's death. The closure report are being submitted right now to courts in Mumbai and Patna, effectively saying that there's been no conclusive evidence that there was any foul play in these two cases. Now, before we go forward in this story or this conversation, I must give you a trigger warning that it will include mentions of drug abuse and it will include mentions of suicide. So anyone who's triggered by these two things could stop watching right now. A quick recap into everything that has happened in this case so far. On the 14th of June 2020, Sushant Singh Rajput, a very talented actor, part of the Hindi film industry, was found dead in his Mumbai apartment. The Mumbai police initially ruled it as death by suicide. There was no note that was found, and the initial investigation, including resulted in questioning several people from his professional and his personal life. It was after that that murder allegations came up. Sushant's family was not satisfied. They suspected foul play and claimed that he couldn't have possibly taken his own life. The case then shifted to the CBI when the actor's father filed a case in Patna accusing his then partner or girlfriend Rhea Chakraborty and others of abetment to suicide and financial exploitation, and that led to a CBI investigation. The CBI took over the case in August, and the CBI questioned several individuals, including Rhea Chakraborty and her brother Shavik. And as of the latest updates, the CBI have not confirmed, abetment to suicide or murder or any of these things to the people accused. There was also a financial angle that was brought into place, allegations of money laundering, financial irregularities. The enforcement directorate got involved. It investigated Rhea Chakraborty over an alleged 15 crore rupee siphoning of money from Sushant's account. No conclusive evidence of money laundering has been made public so far. There was a drug question that then came up. The Narcotics Bureau, which is India's investigative agency for the sale and movement of narcotics and heavy drugs, entered the picture. There was chats that were mentioning alleged drugs that were read out live on television without any respect for privacy. Rhea and Shavik and several others were arrested in a possible alleged involvement in procuring drugs and consumption of drugs, and then it led to a witch hunt of multiple Bollywood-linked celebrities. Deepika Padukone, Sara Ali Khan, Rakulpreet Singh were all questioned. Rhea Chakraborty spent about nearly a month in jail before she was granted bail. It became a media circus 24/7. The television channels were obsessed with this case. They were pushing theories of murder and betrayal and drug cartels. Ms. Chakraborty herself was vilified and accused of being a witch and a murderer. There was the Press Council of India and the Bombay High Court who later criticized the media coverage, but it was not enough to put anybody back in their box. There was a mental health angle. Sushant Singh Rajput was reportedly battling depression and a bipolar disorder that was then confirmed by his therapist Susan Walker, who confirmed it posthumously after he had passed away. And that led to a lot of confusion about what can and cannot be discussed as far as mental health is concerned, and the kind of support. What we should have been discussing is the kind of support that people who are going through depression actually need. But what the media did was the exact opposite of that. It then led to a conversation of nepotism, fueled by some members of the film industry, accusing others of causing this death in some way by not supporting this young actor enough. It resulted in massive outrage against those accused of nepotism, and the insiders of Bollywood, big names like Karan Johar, Salman Khan and others, were trolled for allegedly sidelining Sushant, and no formal charges were ever brought, but there was a fair amount of ugly behavior towards these individuals. There was a political angle that's really important to remember. the case became a political football between the Maharashtra government that was then run by Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena and the Bihar government where Sushant Singh Rajput is actually from. It actually became a rallying cry in the Bihar elections in late 2020. And there were allegations of cover-ups and, asking the police to either move too fast or move too slowly, as the case may be. There was a CBI investigation, like I said, there was a narcotics investigation, and the media, of course, had a complete field day. Cut back to where we are today. A closure report is being filed by the CBI in both cases. The case that was registered against Rhea Chakraborty, her brother, and several others of abetment to suicide by Sushant Singh Rajput's father. Rhea Chakraborty then filed a counter case against some family members of Sushant Singh Rajput, saying that they had actually provided a fake sort of prescription that allowed him to procure the drugs that he actually needed. Both of these cases are now being closed by the CBI, who says that they've not found any evidence of foul play in both cases, effectively saying that all of these people are innocent. Now, let me tell you a quick detour to tell you what a closure report actually is, right? So a closure report is filed in cases where the investigative agency finds that there is no evidence against the accused. But you must remember that filing the closure report doesn't automatically mean that the case is closed. The magistrate or the judge in question is the final authority. The report is filed before that magistrate. They look into the police findings, and under the law, once the investigation is complete, a report must be filed with the magistrate empowered. Now, once the report is submitted, it is up to the magistrate to examine the report and accept whether they are satisfied, or if they are not satisfied, it is within the magistrate's rights to actually direct a further investigation and ask for more evidence if it is necessary. If the closure report is accepted, then the case is closed, and the complainant, though, might still challenge that in a higher court. So that's where we are right now. The complainant has an option of filing a protest petition in High Court or in a higher court, and the court then might either accept or dismiss the closure report. So effectively, it doesn't conclusively mean this is the end, but it means that you must remember, in this case, the CBI has investigated. So even if the magistrate is not fully satisfied, CBI investigations have a fair amount of respect for being the highest form of investigative agency in our country, and that's an important factor as well when any judge looks at the investigation. Now, Rhea Chakraborty's advocate, who's Satish Manishinde, who represents her, while Ms. Chakraborty herself has not made any statement since this news came out, he has said that I'm quoting, "We're grateful to the CBI for thoroughly investigating every aspect of this case. The amount of false narrative in social media and electronic media was totally uncalled for. During the pandemic, everyone was glued to TV and social media, and innocent people were hounded and paraded before the media." And we all remember that visual of Ms. Chakraborty being taken in for questioning, being physically, not just figuratively hounded by the media, but physically sort of the police allowing the media to touch her, and she's becoming smaller and smaller, and I remember that visual very well. I think that's what Mr. Manishinde is referring to. Now, there has been a reaction from KK Singh, Sushant Singh Rajput's father, whose initial FIR actually led to this entire investigation. He has actually said, and he maintained a very long silence this far, he's voiced his disappointment and said the CBI did not do its job on time, but he's remained optimistic about the court proceedings, and he said, "I hope whatever comes out of the court will be right, and hopefully it will come out soon." Now, he's also talked about the emotional toll of losing his son, and he acknowledged that media reports regarding Aditya Thackeray's alleged connection, but he stated that the truth will only be determined by the court. Now, remember, there is a parallel case that has come up, that names Aditya Thackeray as well, and that sort of merits its own video at this point. But we must now circle back to where we are right now. Even though the closure report has come as a relief for Rhea Chakraborty, what does this really mean for her and for the state of the Indian media? Will Rhea Chakraborty get back the last 5 years of her life, where no doubt she lost a lot of work, her personal life was compromised, her public life was compromised, her reputation was slandered in the most despicable way? Is there any room of retribution for her? And let me remind you very quickly what happened with the media at that point. Rhea Chakraborty was declared guilty by the media on prime time, night after night. You know, there were words like murderer, black magic woman, gold digger that were used with complete impunity. So these anchors had no accountability at all, and these TV debates turned into mob trials, and it was being fueled again and sort of rolling into social media and backwards. And channels, you know, selectively reported WhatsApp chats and read out private information, out of context messages or live television. There was a sort of like a scramble to build the most despicable narrative possible. There was a deep invasion of privacy of everyone involved. Personal videos, photos, chats were actually put on screen. There was a stigmatization of mental health, saying that, you know, the mental health angle was completely dismissed. It was called the Bollywood cover-up. You know, experts who talk about depression and experts who were talking about suicide prevention were being shouted down on television debates. And every sort of, you know, conversation about mental health was being treated as a cover-up, which I think did a lot of damage to our understanding of mental health as a country in general. And then it sort of changed its focus to take all of Bollywood in its crosshairs to say, you know, nepotism and a bad industry, and blamed everybody for taking drugs and blamed everybody for being corrupt. And Rhea Chakraborty sort of became the handle by which the police and the politicians and the media were just using it to go after their enemies. And that is, you know, we as a society, we have to stop for a second to ask for what is the accountability for the media when they do things like this. The Supreme Court has repeatedly told us that we believe in freedom of speech, and I believe in freedom of speech, but should there not be accountability for people who are in the news business, who are not journalists anymore? Obviously they're entertainers, but they categorize themselves as news and they sell themselves as news, which means that when people watch you, they will take what you say seriously. But obviously this illustration of this case shows more than anything else that the media, specifically on television at this point, no longer takes itself seriously and has zero credibility, and therefore merits zero trust from the audience. But at what point will they be held accountable for the things that have been said and the things that they continue to do night after night to please their political masters or simply to win a night's TRP? If there's no accountability at all, then why are they still being allowed to call themselves news? Leave me a note in the comment section if you believe there should be accountability without actually infringing on freedom of speech. Because, you know, we regularly have the courts, we regularly have government saying how, you know, talking about how YouTube needs to be looked at and digital needs to be looked at and OTT needs to be looked at. At what point are they going to look at mainstream licensed television channels that are, you know, completely putting out yarned, fabricated stories that they cook up every night as news, and there's zero accountability for any of it. So even the self-regulation that these guys are supposed to do is obviously failing. So at what point and how should this accountability actually be brought in?